Hey ExJW, thanks again for stopping by. If you're new to the channel, my name is Riley and I'm a former Jehovah's Witness. Today I'm interviewing Mona. Mona is a PMO. PMO stands for physically in, mentally out. And what that means is that she's still technically an active Jehovah's Witness, but she no longer believes in the doctrine. As I'm sure you'll understand, Mona is taking a huge risk speaking with me and sharing her experiences in such a public way. Let's hear Mona's story. Mona, how are you today?
Hi Jackson, how you doing?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well today.
Great. So we've been friends on Facebook for a little while now. I can't remember exactly when, but yeah, that's how we got to know each other.
I believe I found your videos last year, when you were newly awakened, so to speak, and not newly awakened, but this is when you told your story, your very first story.
That's right. That's right. Actually, I was newly awakened because it hasn't even been a year yet since I woke up.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
yeah, you're right. I was newly awakened. Yeah. So we were talking on Facebook the other day, and you said something about your story, and I just thought that it would be interesting to try and get you on an interview to hear your perspective.
Okay. So where should I start?
So how did you become a Jehovah's Witness?
Okay. I won't say I became one voluntarily. I was brought into it. My mom got baptized when I was 10 years old. Prior to her being baptized, of course, we lived the normal life that people do. We attended church, and I was in the church choir as a little girl. And we lived in the southern parts of the United States, in Arkansas. And so we moved to Michigan, and we had been living in Michigan. We moved to Michigan in 1976. And we moved into an apartment next door to a lady who my mom watched every Tuesday, because my mom would see this lady having a lot of people coming over, and this one man would come over who was very, he wore a hat, suit, and my mom thought that that was their pimp, because she thought that all the ladies were prostitutes. And she would tell my dad, she would say, she would tell my dad, I believe that lady next door is a hooker because I could see their pimp, and all those women go in the house. And so she thought that every Tuesday night they were having, their gathering, I guess, to figure out what they were going to do. And so this went on for quite some time. And then one time my dad needed me to have a babysitter because we didn't have anyone to keep me, and they both had jobs. My mom had started working full time, so he went to the prostitute next door to see if she will watch me when I get out of school at 3 o'clock. And she said yes. And he went and told my mom. My mom was mad because she was like, those people are hookers over there and they got their pimp. I see them every week. And you are going over there asking this hooker to babysit my daughter. So my mom decided to go over, you know,
That's
and
so funny.
talk to her, because she was like, my daughter's not going to be here with a hooker. So that's when my mom found out the lady was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and they were having book study at her house every Tuesday. And of course, the man that was looking like a pimp, he was like a ministerial servant, but he presided over the book study. And so, it took. My mom is a very inquisitive person, so she continued to speak with this lady. And my mom loves the way people speak. If you're very articulate, and the lady was very articulate, very sweet lady. She had 2 kids, and um, she would tell my mom about different things they were learning, and my mom loved the way they spoke when she spoke to the witnesses. But the lady did tell my mom that she could not be friends with her because her friends were only people that were Jehovah's Witnesses. And so my mom immediately accepted a study. And so, they studied. At that time, I was about 8 years old. They studied all the way up until I had my birthdays, continued to have my birthdays, continued to celebrate every holiday, and I myself attended another church separately, because originally we were Baptists. And so when my mom got a lot more serious about getting baptized, that's when she, revealed to my dad that I'm going to get baptized. My dad was not studying. She was going to get baptized, and Mona can no longer celebrate these holidays and no more birthdays, and this will be her last year doing so. But, of course, every witness that get ready to get baptized, they'll tell their children, oh, but we won't miss that because, excuse my dog, because you're going to get presents all the time and you're going to be celebrated all the time because every day is special to Jehovah. And you would be celebrated that way. So I was like, oh, I'm okay with this. So my mom also told me that I would no longer be able to attend the church that I was attending, which was okay with me. I didn't care because I loved church and I thought the Kingdom Hall, I hadn't really been to the Kingdom Hall prior to her getting ready to get baptized, but I was like, well, it's just like any other church. So she said, you're going to start going to the meetings with me. And I'm like, fine. So immediately at the age of 10, when we started attending the meetings, I noticed it was different. The teaching was different. There was no choir. I didn't like it, to be honest with you. But as a kid, you have no choice. You go with where your parents tell you. And so, so my mom got baptized. And I also felt, oh, we'll do this temporarily because that's all we ever did. We went to church temporarily. We went to different churches. Everything, we were the type of family that went from place to place. So I never liked the Kingdom Hall, but I was like, I'll give her a year, 2 years time. And eventually, I settled in because, kids like kids. And there were kids that I could play with. And, so it became part of our norm. Excuse my dog. She sees another dog.
That's okay. That's no problem. So can I just pick up on something you mentioned? You mentioned that the witness who your mum thought was a hooker, which is hilarious, by the way. She actually told your mum that she couldn't be friends with her. That's really strange to me because witnesses aren't usually that upfront about that side of the doctrine. That's something they usually keep hidden or at the very least just don't speak about until somebody is much more acquainted with the organization.
Mm-hmm. Well, this lady was very out front. The reason why I think she didn't want to be my mom's friend either, she didn't really like my mom. Because my mom was very shapely, back in the 70s, and she wore these tight jeans and she wore halter tops and, the big shoes that they would wear. And every time she would walk down the street, all the men would just hit the door to see my mom walk past. And so, I found out years later that she really didn't like my mother. So she really didn't want to be friends with my mom. That's the reason why she was so forthright with telling my mom, I can't be your friend unless you're one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And so that was the reason why.
That makes a lot of sense.
Okay, yeah. I left that part out. So when my mom started studying, they developed a relationship, and she still had her suspicions about my mom. But my mom became one of her progressive students because my mom, she loves knowledge. And when you're an outsider and you've never seen anything of intellect, this seems so prestigious to you because you're learning a new terminology that supposedly no one else is supposed to know. You're being told that you're the cream of the crop. Jehovah has chosen you out of everyone else in the world. So it was important and my mom had a love for God. She had been raised to have a love for God. And so it was important to her to be part of this group because they seem to have so much going for them. But I'm going to progress up to teenage years when, the problem years. So um, let me go to age 11. She had one sister that she allowed me to go out of town with her to visit her family in Wisconsin here in the U.S. And I was excited about going. This lady was a Jehovah's Witness, of course. Her family was. So we go to Wisconsin, and while we're there, the lady had a son that was 23 years old and who was living in Wisconsin at the time. And he immediately started molesting me while I was there.
Oh no.
When he would, yeah, nighttime would come, he would touch me inappropriately. Um, and I had not a family member there, so I didn't know what to say, didn't say anything, because I'm thinking, okay, this week would be over because I was there for a week, and I'm like, this week would be over. And he was just touching me inappropriately, so I felt, you know um all over, put it like that. And so when we got close to the last part of us being there, was like 2 days before we were supposed to leave. I guess he wanted to take it all the way. And so his family was on the backyard barbecuing because they were having a big family reunion event. And so I'm on my way up the stairs to go to the bathroom, and he comes out of another room. And remember, at the time, he's 23. He's a Jehovah's Witness, okay? And so he comes out the bathroom, and he's like, at least out the bedroom while I'm trying to go to the bathroom. And he says, come here. And I'm like, no. And he pulls me and he says, your first time is not going to hurt. So I start pulling from him. And I had to fight this man, because he's pulling me into this bedroom and I don't want to go. And I tried to throw myself down a flight of stairs because I felt that was the only way I could get away from him. But in the process of me falling down and throw myself down the stairs, he catches me. He has my body halfway through that bedroom. And thank goodness his baby sister, who was 6 at the time, she walks through, she comes in the door and she says, his name was Bill, and she says, Bill, what are you doing to Ramona? She says, I'm going to tell Mama. He lets me go. I ran and locked myself in the bathroom. And his mom comes in, and I'm like in the bathroom. She comes in to comfort me. And, I'm thinking, okay, I've been saved. And, so she tells me for the rest of the trip, she's going to need me, to stay away from the boys and, make sure I'm around her. Then she tells the rest of the family, make sure Ramona doesn't use the telephone. I didn't know why she was saying that, but I was like, well, I'm told not to use the telephone. So as soon as we get home from Wisconsin, I go into the house. I didn't say anything, didn't say I was going to say anything to anyone, but I tell my mom. And I tell my mom, because my dad wasn't a witness at the time, okay? He was in the bedroom. And I says, Mom, I said, when we were in Wisconsin, I was telling her, Bill molested me. I didn't say molested me. I told her how he fondled me and everything. And then I said, he also tried to rape me. And I gave her the details. And she says to me, she says, well, since he didn't get a chance to go all the way, I'm going to need you not to say anything about this. Don't tell your dad, because my dad would have went crazy and done something. She said, don't tell your dad. And she says, don't tell anyone, because we don't want to bring reproach on Jehovah's name or his organization.
I was hoping you weren't going to say that.
So,
I hate hearing that phrase.
Yeah. And so, I'm 11 going on 12. This is the summer of 1982. So hearing her say that took me back, because I'm like, I came to my mom, because I'm thinking, you're going to do something. You're going to save me. But in the event of this happening, my mom's friend, that she continued to be friends with this lady. The lady went to a different congregation, and I'm trying to get, Okay, went to a different congregation. But in her congregation, she went back to the congregation and told everyone that when she took me to Wisconsin, she had to keep me away from all the boys because I was seducing all the boys.
Oh my goodness. So blaming the victim.
Yes. Yes. She said she tells everyone in her congregation how I was seducing all of the boys. And so, of course, the rumor got around in the congregation. Everyone started telling their children, do not play with Ramona Hill. I said her whole name. Do not play with her. She's bad association. And so, of course, the kids were told, I wasn't allowed to be at their functions if they had a gathering. I wasn't allowed to be at their playovers, sleepovers or anything. No events with Jehovah's Witness kids. Because back in the 80s, the organization had a thing that they would do with children of Jehovah's Witnesses. You didn't have to be an unbaptized publisher to be considered being reproved or disassociated or whatever. They had a term. They said they will announce a person's name and says so and so is bad association. Even though that child was not baptized or unbaptized publisher, you were supposed to treat them as if they were disfellowship. Now, I never got publicly announced because at the time this was happening, I didn't know this rumor had been spread. But they, with amongst themselves, had spread it through the congregations that I was bad association. So I used to wonder why Jehovah's Witness kids did not want to be with me. They treated me like I had a plague. So of course, all my friends were worldly, and like I said, we were in a house divided. I had a dad that wasn't a witness. So it allowed me to have worldly friends, and I would have, and I said, since the kids at the hall don't want to be with me, these are my friends. And they were good friends. We weren't bad people, and I had sleepovers with them. And that allowed me to have a normal life, so to speak. And I had told my dad when I got around 13, 14, I had informed my dad that I was never going to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And my dad didn't like witnesses at the time anyway, so he would tease my mom and says, well, Ramona don't want to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and he would laugh at her. That made her double down because she was making sure I attend all the meetings, and she made me become an unbaptized publisher because she didn't like the fact my dad was saying that Mona said she didn't want to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So I became an unbaptized publisher approximately around the age of 15. And so, of course, you start giving talks and everything. And so, I remember my first kiss with a boy. And so I had, I'm an unbaptized publisher at this point. I had kissed the boy. So I thought I was pregnant from kissing. I know it's stupid. And so because my mom used to tell me, if you go around kissing boys, you're going to end up pregnant. You would hear all these talks at the Kingdom Hall about different things, but I thought pregnancy was because, you had an intimate kiss with a boy. So I'd had my real intimate first tongue kissing and everything. So I'm like, Jehovah's Holy Spirit is going to be taken from the Kingdom Hall. I need to confess to the elders what I did. I'm scared. I'm pregnant. I'm going to be disfellowship. I'm thinking all these things. Now, I'm not a baptized witness at this time, but, I'm thinking all these things. So I said, I'm going to wait at least a month to find out how far along pregnant I was from kissing. Like I said, nothing but kissing. And then, once I find out I'm pregnant, I'm going to tell the elders what I did. Month came by, of course, I'm like, I didn't get pregnant from that, So then too, I was like, okay, so I didn't get pregnant this time. And I said, well, Jehovah's Holy Spirit going to end up being taken from the Kingdom Hall. So I'm going to sit around and wait and see when the brother said the Holy Spirit wasn't there, because we'll know that I don't did something bad because it'll show and the brothers announce it. Never did they announce anything because I thought the elders had foresight. They could look at you and tell you had done wrong. Right then, at age 15, I called BS. Because I was like, these people are still going on the way they normally go on. I'm like, I kissed the boy and everything and, not all the way, but how young kids are. And I thought I was pregnant, and I said, they always say Jehovah's Holy Spirit is supposed to lead the congregation. Mm-mm. And right then and there, I knew something was up.
I had a similar experience to that. So remember at the conventions years ago, like in the 80s, you when they still did food at the assemblies, you would get these tickets that you had to buy the tickets in advance at your Kingdom Hall, and then you go to the convention and you use these tickets to purchase food. Well, some friends of mine found on the convention ground a whole box of them, a whole box of these tickets, and they took them. But then after the first day, they started feeling guilty. They thought that Jehovah would reveal it. And do you remember the drama, the audio drama of Achan, after Achan stole the stuff from that city, and then Jehovah led Moses, no, not Moses, the guy who took over, Joshua. Jehovah led Joshua to separate the whole assembly by tribe, and then by household, and then to find out who was the one who took. So my friends were thinking that this was going to happen. So they thought that after the break in the afternoon, they thought that the whole convention would go out onto the grass in the stadium, and then they'd all get separated out by circuit, and then by congregation, and then by families until the ones who took the meal tickets were identified. And when it didn't happen, they all thought, I mean, I wasn't there. They were telling me this afterwards. When it didn't happen, they were telling me, is Jehovah really watching if we didn't get caught?
It was like ding dong.
Yeah, exactly. Incidentally, none of them are witnesses anymore.
I understand why. That is hilarious. I guess I wasn't the only one. Yeah, that, like I said, that was a light bulb moment to me, and I just started calling BS on everything. And then of course, as a Jehovah's Witness kid, 16, you start hanging with the so-called other not so good Jehovah Witness kids. That's all I had as far as, when my mom was buckling down telling me I needed witness friends. So I seeked out the ones that were doing things. And so they weren't bad in retrospect when you think about it. They were bad according to Jehovah Witnesses terms. Because we would sneak a little drink, like wine coolers and everything was popular back in the 80s and stuff. And that's what they would drink. And I had one friend, yeah, she was having sex, but, Jehovah wasn't seeing all this was going on. And it led me even more to this is BS, because all these kids doing all this and life is going on as normal. So I was just like, I'm going to wait my time out. I get to age 19. So this is when my mom was like, she got sick of me only being an unbaptized publisher, because I was not progressing towards saying I wanted to get baptized. So I go out with one of the Jehovah's Witness kids who had became like my best friend. We go to the mall. We're having fun. I come home. My mom is mad. It's like after 9 p.m. here. And she's like, get on the phone and call this certain person. You're going to have a Bible study. Now, the sister who was a teenager to a year older than me, she was 20. This girl hated me. She hated my guts. But my mom was like, but she was a full-time pioneer, and her dad was an elder. She was exemplary. Their family was the royalty of Jehovah Witness family. So I had to get on the phone, call her up, and tell her I would like to start studying the Bible. I didn't want to do it, but I was scared of my mom. But that's a whole nother story for another day. She was abusive. Just let me say that when I was growing up, very abusive. But anyway, so I started to studying with this she starts studying with me. So I said to myself, okay, I'll ride this out until I'm able to leave home when I'm old enough. So I studied with her for a year, and she's like, when are you going to get baptized? I was like, I don't know. We studied out of the book, the blue book, Life That Leads to Everlasting Life, that is now apostate material. But, but that's the book that I studied out of. And so, then I I was 20, and I was getting ready to turn 21. And I come home from work, and because I was working at the bank at that time, and I was going to college. And so my mom was like, you've been studying long enough, and everybody else your age has gotten baptized, and what that makes me look like. And she had a plaque that was on the wall that says, as for me and my household, we should serve Jehovah, or God. It didn't say Jehovah, God. And she was like, you're either getting baptized or you're getting out the house. The reason why my mom was able to make all these decisions, because my dad never spoke up. He wasn't a witness, but when it came to me, he allowed her to do anything she wanted to me. And so if it meant her putting me out the house, she could, he would go along with it. So I'm sitting here like 20, and I'm making only $6.12 an hour. And I'm thinking to myself, what kind of life could I have? I didn't have a family. Everybody that was my family that lived here was witnesses. I couldn't go to them. And the friends that I had, they had already had babies, and I didn't want to live in the house with crying babies. So I was like, I guess I'm going to have to tell the brothers I want to get baptized. I said, because I have nowhere to go. So I called, the person that was studying with me, and told her I was ready for baptism. It went so fast, but I, at this time, was thinking, okay, now if Jehovah is real, Jehovah's going to know my heart condition. So when they get to this last brother, he's going to tell me I'm not qualified for baptism, because if the Holy Spirit is really there, they're supposed to know. So I go through those, well, it was over 100 and something questions that we had to do. So I go through these questions, and we get to the third last elder, and we finish up those questions. And he says, okay, he says, wonderful, you're ready for baptism. He says, all we got to do is go fill up the bathroom tub, and we can dunk you right now. And I looked at him, my heart dropped, and he was just laughing, thinking, oh, that was so neat. And I'm thinking to myself, how can this be? He's supposed to be able to, Jehovah was supposed to intervene here. Jehovah knows my heart. And I shouldn't be getting baptized, because I still had a worldly boyfriend at that time. And of course, being that I didn't believe, I was intimate with my worldly boyfriend. And so I'm like, this can't be. I said, something else is wrong here, because I understood the Holy Spirit not being taken away from the congregation, but for people to get baptized, I felt something should intervene. And so it led up, the day of my baptism, I'm headed to my baptism and thinking to myself, Jehovah, if you're real, please let a semi truck hit my car and let me die now. That's how bad I did not want to get baptized. I'm like, you will let me die now. Lo and behold, we made it to the Silverdome in Detroit, Michigan. And I'm still like, I felt like I was outside of my body looking at what was going on. And it was a day before my 21st birthday that I got baptized. And after I got baptized, I go back to I did this all for my mom and not to be put on the street. Soon as I went up to my mom and thinking my mom was going to be happy, congratulations, she said, good, now you can get disfellowshipped.
She said, what?
Yes. She says, good, now you can get disfellowshipped.
Oh, man. It sounds like she was happy about that.
That's her personality. We've had a contentious relationship all my life. That's her personality. So, of course, when she said that, I was just totally floored, because I'm like, I did this to make you happy. I didn't want this. I wanted to die before getting baptized, you know. So, but then I tried to rationalize with myself, this is already happening. I was still in college. And I was like, this is already happening. So maybe they know what's best. Maybe this is the truth. You know, I grappled with that decision. And so I said, I'm going to be a good Jehovah's Witness. Since I'm baptized now, I'm going to be clean. I broke off my relationship with my boyfriend because I had been with him a day before my baptism, which basically would make my baptism invalid. Because according to the Shepherd and the Flock book, if you were doing something immoral all the way up to baptism, your baptism is invalid. So that's the reason why, to this day, I don't really feel I've ever been one of Jehovah's Witnesses. But anyway, but at that point, I was like, well, even though I know my baptism, you know, I was with my boyfriend all the way to the day before. I said, I'm going to become a good Jehovah's Witness. I cut off ties with my boyfriend. And while in college, it was another guy who wanted to date me that was in college with me. And I told him, you know, the reasons why I couldn't date him. And I gave him a watchtower, underlined all these things about, you know, how witnesses are supposed to date, you know. And and of course he thought I was batshit crazy, you know. So that was enough to run him off from wanting to have anything to do with me. But during the time he was trying to come after me, I went to the brother, the one who had this daughter who studied with me, to ask him advice. And I was asking him advice pertaining to this man. And I'm like, Brother Jones, you know, I got this guy at college and blah, blah, blah. And tell him how I gave him the watchtower. He looks at me, he says, you must want this man. I said, excuse me? He says, you must want to be with this man. I said, no. I'm asking you the best way to preach to him in order to take a stance. Nah, you sound like you want to be with this man. And I said, oh, goodness, I hate I even spoke to you. And, you know, I walked away. And my, unbeknownst to me, my reputation from age 11 was still following me, even after baptism, right? So, you know, I had, at that point, I got baptized in July, no, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. Okay, 6 months later, I meet my fiance. Okay, 6 months after baptism. But at the time, I didn't know he was going to be my fiance. Uh, I'm sitting with my mom, and it was these visiting brothers from a different town came to visit us. And my mom looks over and she's like, Ramona, look at that brother. She's like, isn't he good looking? I'm like, no. And she's and she's like, she says, that's what's wrong with you. You always like worldly boys. You always run after worldly men. You need to be looking at the brothers. You need to give the brothers a chance. And I'm like sitting there, whatever, you know. So after the meeting was over, I was getting ready to leave, but one of the sisters, young sisters, come to me and she's like, well, Ramona, we're going out this evening, you know, because since I was baptized, I guess I was okay to go somewhere with the friends now. And she was like, we were wondering if you want to come with us, and we're going to have fun going to Pirates Island. It was a place where they had go-karts and pizza and all this stuff. And I was like, sure, this was my first real outing with Jehovah's Witnesses to have fun. And like I told you, I was 21. And so, you know, so we go, and that particular brother that my mom had picked out while we were out and everything, he takes a liking to me, right? And he asked me to go to the bank with him to the ATM automatic teller machine with him so he could withdraw some more money. And and I'm surprised because I didn't know the dating process of witnesses at this time. So I'm surprised we were even alone together to go to the ATM because I didn't know we were supposed to be chaperoned everywhere. But at the time I wasn't dating him. I was just like, he just asked me to go. So I went. So while we were out, he was telling me how he thought I was pretty and, you know, and He was like, "Is it okay if I call you sometime?" I was like, "Oh, sure. I had no problems with that." Because I didn't like him. And so he started calling me on the phone, and I'm thinking we're just friends. Because in a normal process of getting to know people, men and women, you get to know people as friends. You don't automatically just be like, "Oh, you're mine. We're dating. We're getting married." So I'm in my mind thinking this while we're on the phone, and then 2 weeks later, I find engaged.
Wait, what?
I found out we're engaged. It wasn't asked to me really if I. He never got on the knee or came in front. Mona, will you marry me? It was just told to me that I was engaged to him, and I'm like, we got engaged. So I'm like, Mom, so and so say we're engaged, and she was excited. And then he came and gave me a ring, and engagement ring, and I accepted. And I was thinking in my mind, well, I guess it's the way it works at the hall. And I'm like, I don't love him, but if I marry him, maybe I'll grow to love him. I said, because I never seen real love in my life anyway. Just I'm so in love. So I said, I guess it's the way they do things at the hall. you know. So we go through the process of being engaged, and we started having to chaperone dates along with this other sister, and she was dating his friend. But things just was not right. This person was not compatible. He would make very bad jokes. Like, we would go out to eat, and he would call the waiters gay, and he would say terms like, "Oh, he makes my booty burn," and I'm like, "What?" Because, and I was like, this is so inappropriate. He was just not for me. And he and his friend would just fall out laughing, and they would just talk about gay people bad all the time. And my friend she was going to be my bridesmaid, my maid of honor. She, you know, she confessed to me that she wanted my fiance.
Wait, she told you that she actually had feelings for your fiance.
She told me this in front of her boyfriend and in front of my
What? She
fiance.
had a boyfriend as well.
Yes.
Oh my
Her
goodness.
her
That's
her
crazy.
boyfriend was yeah, her boyfriend was my fiance's best friend.
Wow.
And she told us that she wanted a true, at least a confession, that she had met my fiance, and she had started dating him, and she was marrying him. And if I had not been one of Jehovah's Witnesses, I probably would have punched her in the face. But me trying to put on that new personality and be a good Jehovah's Witness, because I was auxiliary pioneering and everything too. Um, I was like, well, okay, I understand, but this is the way it is, and he's my fiance. I'm sorry you feel that way. But so I eased past that. But things with he and I continued to get worse. He would tell me things about how he did not like the way I dressed, because I dressed more businesslike, because I had a 9 to 5 job. I worked at the courthouse. Um, I didn't dress like a little teenager in jeans and tennis shoes, because that wasn't allowed where I dressed, work. And my friend, she was 2 years younger than me, 2 or 3 years young. So she wore the tennis shoes and jeans and everything everywhere. And he would tell me, I wish you would dress more like her. And he told me one time, he says, you're not the type of woman I typically would date. And I'm like, why are you marrying me? He says, oh, I care about you. I love you, but I date women that look better than you. Um, you know, he was like breaking me down. Every time he would tell me something, it was always negative as far as why I was not his type of woman. But he still wanted to marry me. Then, as the months go by, now this is all happening within a 6 month span, right? I find out that he and my maid of honor were sleeping together.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, what? So She called me one day after they had left and been together, because they left in front of my face one day. We were supposed to go to the movies, and she was distraught and needed to talk to someone. She wanted to talk to my fiance. So I'm waiting, and I'm like, we're going to miss the movies. I said, well, you guys got to come on. And before I know it, I go in the house and they drove off together. So that whole time, I didn't know where they were, what they were doing. And she called me on the phone that night to tell me that my fiance did not want me, that he wanted her, and that I was pressuring him to marry me because I, at the age of 21, going on 22, I was old
and
and
in a
in a
hurry
Old
hurry
to
to get
marry.
at
married.
21.
Well,
Well,
you know
the
the
nature
nature
of
of
witnesses,
witnesses.
they're
They're married
married
at
at
least
least
by
by
18,
18,
Yeah,
right?
right?
yeah.
So for me being a woman, I'm going on 22, I'm considered old maid. So I got to hurry up and get a brother to marry me. So he tells her, which I never even asked for his hand in marriage. He asked me. Like I told you, I didn't even know we were engaged till he told me. So, but at this point, while she's telling me this, I had no idea they had been sleeping together though. So while we're on the phone, he calls me and I click over it and I tell her, he's on the phone. And so she's like, what? I said, I'm going to let you go, sweetie, and see what he has to say. So while I'm speaking with him on the phone and I'm telling him what she tells me, he's like, she's lying to you. And I said, well, you know what? I don't care if you don't want me. I'm cool with that. I said, I never asked you to hit the highway to come to my house every day like you do. I said, every time I get out of work, I can't come in the house and change my clothes because you're already at my house. I said, so I'm cool with you not hitting the highway come to see me. I don't need to marry you. You do not define me. I said, I'm good. You can have her. So he's begging me, no, I don't want her. I want you. I want to marry you. So we continued to date for a couple more months, right? So this is when I guess my mom got the epiphany that, because I'd never loved him, but I was getting very down and out and depressed because I felt as a witness I was supposed to marry him because they say, let your yes mean yes and your no mean no. And so she was like, well, Mona, if you are not in love with him, she said, don't marry him. And that was like heaven sent to me, for lack of better words. So I was pleased, and immediately, as soon as she told me, I told him I don't want to get married. I gave him back his rings. He was still like, no, I do want to marry. I said, but I don't want to marry you. So we took the rings back to the jewelry store, and so he could get the refund on the rings. And I was like the happiest person you ever wanted to see because I felt I'm free. I almost married a man that I didn't love. And so then, you know, um, after that, that's when I found out he had all along been sleeping with my so-called best friend because her biological brother, he told me that she had been doing it. And so, I did not snitch on them because, normally people go to the elders. I just I just didn't feel the need to go to the elders and tell what had happened. I was like, well, if Jehovah's Spirit is really there, they should, they'll tell on themselves. They never did. So after that, I had a lot of cracks coming to me along the way. After that, I was like, I don't want to date another witness, but I did date another witness man, but it didn't go anywhere. I dated a couple of other witness men, and it was just like, no, all these are bad, bad relationships. And so as I got older, I did meet a worldly man, and he was so kind to me. And I was like trying to get him to study with witnesses and, keeping my distance from him, telling him I couldn't be with him. But it didn't matter. No matter what I said, he continued to shovel snow for me, mow my yard for me. Anything I needed, he was there, And so, but I continue to partially be a believer because, if you believe in the Bible, you're like, well, all this may not be true, but this is true. So you stick with it. And so I kept putting this man off, even though he would stay in the background. And if I called him and needed anything, he was there. Let's progress up to when I woke up. 2017, November. Took that long. I'm sitting at my desk because now I have my own business, but I had to do some research for a case that I was taking care of. And while I was researching the case, I come across the Australian Royal Commission. And I'm like, oh, what's this? The brothers on here. You see Jeffrey Jackson. You see him on there, and I'm thinking this got to be something dealing with positive about the Jehovah's Witnesses. So I want to see what my dear brother Jeffrey Jackson is saying, right? So my first thing, I hear him lie about the disfellowshipping. Him and some other elders lie about the process of disfellowshipping. And, because it was on YouTube. And so, you could listen to whatever portion you wanted to. And they're talking about they don't believe in shunning and how natural relationships will continue. All these things. I'm like, that's not true. That's not the way it worked. That's not what they're teaching us. And I saw them twisting the actuality of what happens. And I'm getting mad right now as I see them lie, because they tell us to be bold in the faces of authorities and anybody, because Jehovah is our leader, and you should have bold faces, and you should stand up for what you believe in. Stand up for the truth. And I'm looking at them like, they're not standing up for the truth. These are our leaders. I don't care if they tell the world that they're not our leaders. These are our leaders. These are the people that's supposed to disperse biblical truths to us and, new light to us. So then I said, let me continue listening. Then I'm hearing the thing about the child abuse, because I didn't know at that time that child abuse, molestation was so prevalent within our organization. Now, I did know one of my friends who had been molested by her dad when I was 19. She had told me she had got molested by her dad. But I thought that was an isolated incident. I just thought he was sick, But I did not know that this was a prevalent culture of what they did.
How did it make you feel finding all of that out, given your own experience?
I cried. It was like I had been stabbed in the heart. And then it went back to my mom saying, don't say anything to anybody, because we don't want to bring reproach upon Jehovah's organization. Then I realized, I said, even if I had said something, I felt like that 11-year-old girl again, that I wouldn't have been protected no matter what. I was going to be villainized, whether something came out on my end or that sister that came and slandered me. So I'm like, this is how this organization run. I cried for the victims. And then those who actually had gone through that process of having fathers physically molest them, having brothers that they looked up to, male and female, having to experience the physical abuse, sexual abuse. That's torture. Even because we know as an adult, even when you voluntarily intimate with someone for the first time, you know the process. It's not an easy one. Okay. So think of a child having to be done this way. And then you have a whole organization saying these children don't matter. What matters most is our reputation. So we're going to hide all of this and not tell anyone. We don't want the authorities to know. We just want a clean, sparkly reputation in front of the world so we can bring more people in. So I also got angry. Very angry.
I'm so sorry that you went through all of that.
I went through so many emotions. That was the really waking up. That ceiling I told you that was cracking through all these events that I'm telling you that happened. that broke it wide open. I was done. Then, of course, immediately when I found out, I tried to like disperse information to my dad because he became a Jehovah's Witness and during this process too. I skipped all over that. He's a ministerial servant now, but he's a more open person to speak with than my mom. But I'm not going to go through all that. But um, I tried to drop little hints to my dad about the Royal Commission, but he refused to look at it. And so, um, watching the YouTube videos, watching Lady C and JT on Ex Critical Thinkers, I got all my advice on how to handle when it comes to waking up family members. And their videos taught me that sometimes you can't wake family members up. Don't try because it can be more detrimental to you. You have to think about your circumstances. What all do you have to lose? Because a lot of people, when they wake up, and the main thing in your heart and soul is, I gotta warn people I love to get out. But and I did have that feeling. Then you have to think about the fallout. And Lady C and JT made a good um, statement about get your social life in order when you're ready to leave. Make sure you have your education. Make sure you have your money right. Make sure and everyone needs a social network because that's grandiose for our mental state. And so I said, because I was immediately going to disassociate myself. But I'm an only child. I have adopted sisters now, but I'm an only biological child. And I'm the only one that's there with my parents being aging now that can take care of them when they're sick. So it was like a lot weighing on me. And I said, I want out, but I can't leave right now. Then I had a biological brother who committed suicide in 2019.
Oh no, I'm so sorry to hear that.
And it had a lot to do with the way he was raised as being one Jehovah's Witnesses, and he was bullied growing up. And, it led him to, he left home. He was basically put out the house, but he started hanging with a group of people that were bad. He started drinking, doing drugs. The night that in 2019, January 1st, 2019, he had called my mom and was talking about he wanted to come back to the hall and he wanted to get his life together. He wanted to finish school. Um, and she had said something to him about, well, we can't have nothing to do with you. Now, he never got baptized. He only became an unbaptized publisher. But, we can't have anything to do with you until you get your life together. When you get back to the hall, that's the only way I'm going to let you, around us. And his last words on Facebook was, everybody, I've lost my family. Goodbye. And he walked in front of a moving car. And the car was going full speed. And he killed himself. Yeah. So like I said, I woke up in 2017. My brother killed himself in 2019. Then after my brother killed himself in 2019, my mom had a heart attack. And so it was like, because every time I was like, I want to come out of this organization, but so many tragic things were happening. And so I had to help my dad during 2019, 2020, get my mom back on the mends to health.
So all of these reasons are why you're still officially a Jehovah's Witness today. Because every time you wanted to leave, something was keeping you back in.
Yes. Because I'm not scared of men. You know how a lot of people think, especially in the ExJW community, they feel F your PMO. They like, oh, you're scared of the brothers. You're scared of men. No, that's not everyone's story. If it was just me or my family had it, my parents' health was better, it would be easy for me to walk away because I've never seen this religion cohesively be 100% anyway. So, or if you want to call it a religion, but I do love my parents. Even my mom, even though she was abusive to me, you still love, I still love my mom. She beat the bricks off of me growing up. I still love her, you know. um, but I realized I had to get myself together. And, waking up, like I tell a lot of ExJWs, we need to be careful how we treat one another, regardless of whether we're chemo or completely out. Um, we need to be careful how we talk to each other, how we treat one another, because you could push somebody back to the organization. If you argue amongst within each other the way you do, people are going to see you acting like a poster board for a watchtower. Excuse me. You know how when they say that people who are outside are deranged and all kind of things, all you do is push people back. I understand waking up, you have the freedom of thought, the freedom of speech that you didn't have, but be careful.
So you speaking out now and telling your story in such a public way, what do you think could happen as a result of this?
We know what could happen. It's irrelevant. But you know what? My story is told. The reason why I don't go anonymous is because if my story it's going to get told one way or the other. But if my story is told, you got the truth of the way I feel. I don't need to go in the back room to nobody. Watch the video. So therefore, my story is so I don't need to repeat what I've said. Watch the video. I don't need to be validated or invalidated by anyone. My truth is my truth. Now, what they do with it, that's on them. The way family members feel about it, that's on them. I'm here for them while they let me be here for them. But if my family member want nothing to do with me, if they were to see this video, that's on them too. But at least you listen to my story, because if I sat across the table from 3 elders, do you think I'll be able to tell them everything I told you? No. They would interrupt me. They would use cherry pick scriptures. They would play on your heartstrings to try to get tears out of you and turn around and still tell you you're not repentant. They would disfellowship me either way it go. This is the only way to tell my truth.
Well, I must say it's incredibly brave of you. It's incredibly brave of you, knowing what's at stake, but, having the courage to tell your story, tell your truth in your own way, and to own it, So I really admire you for doing that.
Well, thank you. Well, once again, like I said, when others say, "Oh, PMOs are scared," no, we're not all scared. We just know that our story will not be told in full if we sit across those elders. They're going to cut you off because they don't want to hear it.
It's something that I often tell PMOs that I speak to, that the elders are not there to help you. That isn't what they're there for. The elders are like white blood cells or antibodies in your immune system. They're there for one reason and one reason only, and that is to protect, in their minds, protect the health of the congregation. And if you're somebody who they see as a corrupting influence, or even just somebody who just has doubts, you're a danger, and they will, amputate you from the congregation.
That's true.
That's their function. That's their function.
True.
They'll cut you out like gangrene.
That's true.
Yeah.
So that's my story.
Well, thank you so much for sharing it, and I'm really honored that you decided to share your story with all of us and through my channel. I'm very humbled.
Thank you.
That you've done that, and I'm so sorry for all the things that you've been through. You've been through so much.
You know what?
But you know what I feel? Everybody goes through something, and that's what makes our book so beautiful. We're an open book, and we can rewrite that story. We can change the story, and even though things happen to me, things have happened to other people that is even worse. And so that's what makes me me. And I love who I am today. I know me now.
One thing that I pick up from you as you're talking is how strong you are. You're incredibly strong, not just for the fact that you've been through everything you've been through and it hasn't broken you, for the fact that you're so courageously facing what could happen as a result of what you're doing now. It's you know, it's really, really, it comes through so strongly, and you know, it's very admirable.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Like I said, my history created who I am today. And even after this, no matter what may happen, it ain't gonna stop me from living. I got a lot more stories I'm gonna tell. I got a lot more living I'm going to do as long as I'm on this side of the earth. No one's gonna stop me from telling my truth.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
And I hope everything works out in the best possible way that it can.
I've gone against a lot of adversity in my life. Nothing but death can stop me.
Oh, that's a really inspiring attitude. Wow, what an inspiring story. Mona has been through so much, but she's come through it all and she's all the stronger for it. I'm sure you all wish Mona the very best and hope that things work out for her in the best possible way. I know I do. Thank you very much for watching. Please proceed to the exit in an orderly fashion, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching to the very end of the video. If you haven't already done so, please like, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. If you like my work and want to help me continue doing it, please support me on Patreon at patreon.com/Jexit_2020. And with that, I'd like to sincerely thank these very special patrons who make these videos possible.